Germany's done. They're done selling Bitcoin. They're done dumping Bitcoin on the market. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll explain it. But if you do know what I'm talking about, you know that this may slow down some of the drops that we've seen recently. Maybe we've reached a bottom and we can actually see some of the buyers come and make the price go up. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of the other things happening in the market here today. If you don't mind, hit subscribe, turn on the bell notification so you can see future videos just like this. If you like this kind of content and you want to go trade because you're bullish after this video, you can trade over on Margex or on CoinW. Just sign up with the link underneath the video. You can deposit in just a few minutes, check their terms and conditions, and you can get started trading here today. You don't need a VPN. You don't need to KYC, meaning you don't have to send them a bunch of your personal information. And if you're bearish on the market, well, hell, you can go short it if you want. They also are doing some airdrops, so you can get some free tokens as well just by using the links to CoinW and to Margex underneath the video. Hit the join now button, and then you can start trading here today. So Bitcoin's moving up a little bit. Actually, last time I checked, the general market was doing quite well too. Let's actually pull that up very quickly. And so far, it's just been a really solid day. Yeah, the Nasdaq's up 1.41%. Why is Bitcoin moving up? Well, maybe because the traditional market's up. Maybe because of this news. The German government has run out of Bitcoin. Okay, they ran out of Bitcoin. If you don't know what I'm talking about, well, this government had seized about 50,000 Bitcoin, which it's a lot of money. It's a lot of Bitcoin. And they have been dumping it relentlessly for a couple weeks, which caused the price to go down, which caused a lot of people that were long this market to have to sell or to have to cover. They got liquidated out of their positions. And then we saw even further downside. And I showed this morning, but there are reports showing that the German government has been pushing that Bitcoin to 4 or 5 different exchanges, basically trying to sell out as much as possible, trying to put it on all different exchanges because they have different business relationships, they have different clients, and trying to get rid of it very quickly. Like they're not just selling 1% a day or something like that, or 0.5% or 100 Bitcoin. No, they say basically, hey, here's 10,000 Bitcoin. Can you get rid of it for us? And then when it wasn't selling at a certain price, they got it sent back to them. And the problem with this is basically they're sucking up a lot of the buying pressure. People that want to buy, well, if it's some big entity that wants to buy and they work with one of these exchanges, one of these 4 or 5 exchanges, they're getting the German Bitcoin. They're not having to go scrounge around and find some Bitcoin and bid up the price because there's not enough to go around. No, there's someone selling a ton of Bitcoin, billions and billions of dollars of Bitcoin, but now it's at zero. This may be the worst trade of all time. We'll see where Bitcoin's price went, where it goes in the next year, or next 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, because they should have a long time horizon as a government, but it does reduce the near-term selling pressure, right? We don't have someone just dumping Bitcoin on the market. Before they started selling, we were looking pretty good. Maybe 64,000. A week before that, a couple weeks before that, we were at 72,000. Like it was about a month ago, we were at 72,000. A lot of people thinking, okay, we're going to push up to new all-time highs. Now it's just been pretty much straight down. But now it seems like maybe we'll rally a little bit. The general market looks pretty strong here today after a weekday yesterday. CPI came in better than expected. It looks like now they're pricing in 3 rate cuts for the rest of the year. And I kind of want to talk about my thought process on the rest of the year and how investors are going to approach this. But Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index is now at 25. This is very low. Like the fact is, people do not feel greedy. This is not a greedy market. This is a fearful market with Bitcoin at 58,000. We basically reset all metrics from the massive run that we had taken back at the beginning of the year, where we went from 38,000 to 74,000 in a month and a half, something like that. We basically reset all those metrics. Now we're $20,000 higher. So I think that's pretty bullish there. Also, you can see it was a strong week for the ETFs. Monday, they bought over 5,000. Tuesday they bought 3,600. Wednesday, 1,900. Thursday, 2,300, with a lot of the buying coming from, as you might guess, Fidelity and BlackRock, with Grayscale selling a bit throughout the week as well. Now, Something that's really interesting is just like the fact is they're pricing in 3 rate cuts right now throughout the end of the year. And I'm actually supposedly closing on a rental property, supposed to be closing on a rental property in the next few weeks. And I'm thinking right now, the market's looking pretty strong for Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin's probably going to do really well throughout the rest of the year. And I do have a good opportunity to get a rental property at a good price. And my situation is different than a lot of other people because so much of my income and my net worth is tied up in crypto already. Like I said, a lot of my income, that's really the main thing, is tied up in crypto. So if crypto does well, even if I didn't have a penny in crypto, I'd make money. So I have exposure to it, unlike a lot of people where you just have to invest, right? So I still invest in other assets. I think it's smart to diversify in general, especially if you can get good prices. But I look at Bitcoin, I think, do I think the rental is going to do as well as Bitcoin throughout the rest of the year? No. But there's more risk, which is, again, why I have a lot of exposure in crypto in general. But I look at it from other people's perspectives. Like if you were just, let's say you were a normal person making a normal salary, well, you can't buy a rental property, most likely. It's really hard to save up enough at a normal wage with normal expenses to buy a rental property. Let's say you have to spend $400,000 on a home. Well, 25% down payment, a couple other closing costs. You need to come up with 120 grand to close on that rental property. And of course, depending on your area, you can get lower, cheaper, whatever. But that's unattainable for most people. It's too big a cost. And then you can invest in the stock market, which is great over time. It's great, but you're not going to get as much upside as crypto. And right now, if you have cash in the bank, they start cutting rates. You're going to be looking around to figure out, how do I put this somewhere else? Because I don't want 2.5% in the bank unless I'm worth tens and tens of millions of dollars. I don't want a sizable amount of cash in the bank at that point because it's not going to be sizable in interest to me. And I'm losing out on so much that I could be making in the market. Even if you're worth tens and tens of millions, you probably still don't want much in the bank. But what I'm saying is, as you become wealthier and wealthier, people are more okay with money and CDs. And as you get older, people are more okay with 2, 3, 4%. But right now we're at 5, 5.25, 5.5. So some people are happy with that because it can be sizable, even with, I know it's kind of crazy, but some people do have $500,000 or $1 million sitting in the bank. And yeah, that can be $40,000 in interest throughout the year. So it's just crazy because some of these people are going to be looking around saying, that was paying me $50,000. Now it's paying me $25,000. I don't know if it's going to pay me $25,000 next year. And property prices just went up. My property taxes just went up. I have to pay more for life. My neighbor just made 20% in the stock market, or 15% or 10%. And my grandkid just got 120% on this crypto investment. Where should I put my money? Well, if you're going to start looking at the stock market, you're going to start reallocating to the stock market, and maybe hear through your financial advisor, hey, they're Bitcoin ETFs now. It's not the same thing as crypto. Bitcoin is different than crypto. It's safer than crypto. So if you want to invest a little bit in there, it makes sense. And then we get to this next stage of the market where there are rate cuts, and I think it's important to think about the psychology, not just, oh yeah, there are rate cuts, so it makes more sense to put more money in a higher risk investment. No, think about it. Think about the psychology behind it. People are going to be bleeding. They're going to feel like they're bleeding money because, again, they get a little bit of interest at the end of the month, but the S&P 500 goes up 4 or 5%. Just let's look at what the S&P 500 has done this month. This month, the S&P 500 is up 4%. That's a whole year's worth of interest in a savings account. So yeah, the savings account is great, but you could put in the S&P 500 and keep in mind too, the tax benefits are probably better for the S&P 500 than earned interest at a bank, and that's dependent on your area. But it's just interesting to think about all that and the rush of money that's going to come in, especially if they start getting a little bit more aggressive in the rate cuts. And it's eventually coming. Jerome Powell said this week that they're not going to wait for 2% to start lowering rates. So yeah, it's going to be fascinating. And I do think that crypto is going to do very well throughout the rest of the year. I've been really excited because this has been a chance that some people could get in at lower prices. Like, this has been pretty irrational fear from the market. Yeah, there's some selling, but people are freaking out. Like, there's very low sentiment right now because crypto has fallen down, Bitcoin's fallen down because of the German government selling Bitcoin. But when you come in with a sizable amount of Bitcoin, well, it's going to drive down the price just from you selling it. But then other people knowing that you're going to sell it drives down the price further, and longs being liquidated or having to close positions because they realize, well, German government's just going to keep on dumping Bitcoin. I'll close it now and reopen it at a lower price. That all causes a lot of fear, but it's all short-lived. The fact is, this did wreck some people. But now we're at a point where there's not this big overhang. Mt. Gox Bitcoin starting to distribute as well. But there's some wind at our backs again, right? With FTX maybe paying out $16 billion, some of that money is going to come back into crypto. With the end of the year coming and rate cuts coming, there's some wind at our back because people are going to want to invest in higher risk investments. Just yesterday, we saw a huge rotation in risk in the general stock market with the big tech companies selling off, NASDAQ selling off 2%, but the Russell, the small cap index, going up 3.5%. So people are allocating towards lower market cap, higher risk investments. And yeah, it's just an exciting time. Again, if you look at the property market, it's unattainable for a lot of people. It's still not going to perform as well as Bitcoin, in my opinion. When you look at the S&P 500, it's going to be great. It's done great, but the fact is people are always worried about that. And yeah, I don't think it's going to perform as well as Bitcoin in a good market. Of course, Bitcoin's more volatile, so be ready for that. We could have a big drawdown, and you have to be ready for that. That's a cool thing about Bitcoin is if you are under the right psychology, you can make out and make way more money than other people. But if you have bad psychology, you're going to lose a lot more than a lot of people. Like, it's just two sides of the coin. If you can weather the storms and you're smart about it and you don't pack on too much risk, then you're going to get outsized returns. And you have to be willing to sell at some point too, unless you just hold on forever, which isn't the worst thing with Bitcoin. It is usually not a good idea with altcoins, but it's not the worst idea typically with Bitcoin. You know, you can do really well. So hopefully you're thinking the same way I am. Hopefully you're excited. Hopefully, this is the end of the selling from the German government. Well, not even hopefully, it just seems like it is. So yeah, hopefully there's not some big new catalyst for the downside, but I think we're sitting in a pretty good spot for the rest of the year. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. If you do want to trade cryptocurrency, if you do want to add a little bit more exposure to the long side, there are those links to Margex and CoinW, and you get some free money just for trading, and using those join now links, you can get some free crypto at the end of the promotional period. And I will see you all in the next video. If you do want a ticket to Bitcoin Nashville too, if you want to go there, I'm going to be there. You can check out the link underneath the video. You get an extra 10% off when you use my code. And you can get even more off when you use the code or when you spend with Bitcoin. So definitely check that out. Thank you. See you in the next one.